You will apologize to him for embarrassing him at the company you built." Linda's voice cuts through the cool night air on the rooftop terrace, each word sharp as broken glass. She stands there in her $1,000 dress, backlit by the glow of the city, looking like she's delivering a closing argument to a jury. The company I built, not our company. Not the company we built together. The company I built. She says it like it's a weapon, like she's reminding me of everything I've lost without quite admitting she's the one who took it. "Okay," I say. Just that. One word. 2 syllables. I watch her face shift, confusion flickering across those perfect features for just a second before she smooths it away. She expected a fight. Oh, she wanted one, probably. Would have given her ammunition for whatever she's planning next. But I learned a long time ago, back when I wore a different uniform in a different life, that the best response to an ambush is sometimes no response at all. "I mean it, Daniel." She crosses her arms, defensive now. "Tomorrow, in front of Greg and the senior managers. You embarrassed Evan in front of the entire company tonight." Evan. Even his name tastes wrong in my mouth. Evan Hart, VP of Business Development, polished smile and empty eyes. The kind of guy who learned early that charm opens more doors than competence. My wife's lover. Though I'm not supposed to know that part yet. I let my mind drift back to earlier tonight, to the moment that started all this. The company's 15th anniversary gala, held in the ballroom of the Meridian Hotel, all glass and steel and pretension. 15 years since I started Coal Dynamics in a cramped apartment with nothing but a laptop and an idea. Now it's a mid-sized tech consulting firm with 200 employees and enough glass walls to make everyone feel perpetually exposed. Evan had been on stage giving one of his speeches. He's good at those. Knows how to work a crowd, how to make eye contact with just enough people to make everyone feel included. He was talking about modern leadership and innovation for tomorrow and other phrases that sound important but mean nothing. And somewhere in there, between the buzzwords and the self-congratulation, he was erasing me. Not directly. Nothing you could point to and say, "There, that's where he cut Dan Cole out of the story." Just subtle redirects, crediting the team and our leadership for things I'd done, decisions I'd made back when this company was still small enough to care about things like integrity. I'd been sitting at one of the front tables, watching him perform, when something in me just snapped. Not rage, nothing that hot. More like a wire pulling taut and then breaking with a quiet ping that only I could hear. When Evan paused for applause, I stood up. Smooth, casual, like I'd planned it all along, walked up to the stage while everyone was still clapping. Evan's smile faltered just slightly as I took the microphone. "Thanks, Evan," I'd said, keeping my voice friendly, conversational. That was really something. Modern leadership. I like that phrase. It's got a nice ring to it. Almost makes you forget about all that old-fashioned stuff like actually building something from scratch, or working 100-hour weeks, or risking everything you have on an idea nobody else believed in. Pause. Let it breathe. But I guess that's what makes it modern, right? You get to stand on other people's foundations and act like you poured the concrete. The room had gone silent. That particular silence that comes when everyone knows they just witnessed something they'll be talking about in the break room tomorrow. I'd smiled, handed the microphone back to Evan, and returned to my seat. His face had gone through several colors, settling somewhere between pink and red. And Linda. Oh, Linda had been furious. I could see it in the way she held her wine glass, knuckles white, smile frozen. She'd made some excuse and disappeared with Evan for 20 minutes. "Taking a call from a supplier," she'd told Greg later. Sure, that's exactly what it looked like. Now, up here on the rooftop after the gala has ended and most people have filtered out to their cars and their normal lives, she's trying to reassert control, make me apologize, make me submit. "He's been really important to the company's growth," Linda continues, her voice taking on that patient, explaining to a child tone she's developed over the past year. "His connections have brought in 3 major clients. He's a valued member of the team." "He's sleeping with you," I say, not angry, just factual, like commenting on the weather. She doesn't even blink. "Don't be paranoid, Dan. You're seeing things that aren't there because you're insecure about your position in the company. It's understandable. You've been out of the day-to-day operations for almost 2 years now. Things have changed. But acting like this, making these jealous little scenes, it just makes you look unstable." Unstable. That's the second time tonight I've heard that word. Earlier, near the bathrooms, I'd overheard 2 junior employees talking. One of them said I was losing it. The other had laughed and said something about founders not knowing when to let go, but there was a third voice, older, someone from the early days. "He built this place. He has more reason to be here than any of us." Quiet support, but it was there. I'll apologize, I say again. Tomorrow morning, conference room. I'll make it right. Linda studies me, suspicion written across her face. She knows me. Or she thinks she does. The old me would have fought this, would have argued, defended myself, maybe even thrown some furniture. The old me had a temper, back before the burnout, before the injury that took me out of daily operations and let Greg Stanton slide into the CEO role like he'd been waiting in the wings all along, which looking back, he probably had been. Good, she finally says. Greg will be there, some of the managers. Keep it brief and professional. She turns to leave, heels clicking on the terrace floor, then stops. And Dan? This company has moved on. Maybe you should too. I watch her disappear through the door, back into the building, probably to find Evan and reassure him that she's handled it, that I'm neutralized. When I'm alone, I pull out my phone. The city spreads below me, lights and noise and all those people living their lives, unaware that up here a man is watching his marriage crumble and deciding, very calmly, very methodically, exactly what he's going to do about it. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. You're right about them. Call me tomorrow before you apologize. I stare at the message for a long moment. Then I slip the phone back into my pocket and head for the elevator. Apparently, I'm not the only one watching my wife. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The conference room is all glass and chrome, the kind of space that's designed to make you feel exposed. I used to like that, back when transparency felt like honesty. Now it just means everyone can watch as I perform my humiliation. I arrive exactly on time. Evan is already there, lounging in one of the ergonomic chairs with studied casualness, like he's posing for a magazine spread on the modern executive at rest. He's wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, crisp white shirt, no tie. Approachable, but authoritative. He's got the look down to a science. Linda enters right behind me, Greg trailing after her like a worried puppy. Greg Stanton, our CEO, imposed by the investors 2 years ago when I was too burned out and too broken to fight about it. He's competent enough, I suppose, safe. The kind of guy who makes decisions based on spreadsheets and focus groups rather than instinct or vision. The investors love him because he's predictable. 3 managers file in after them. Paula from HR, sharp-eyed and uncomfortable. Marcus from operations, carefully neutral. Jenny from marketing, trying not to look like she's watching execution. They take seats around the long table, and I note who sits where. Linda next to Evan, of course. Greg at the head, because he has to maintain the illusion of authority. The managers spread out, unconsciously choosing sides. Dan, Greg says, folding his hands on the table in front of him. We're here to address last night's incident. Linda and Evan both felt that your comments during Evan's presentation were inappropriate and disrespectful. I nod slowly. I understand. Evan leans forward, and I can see him choosing his words carefully. He's good at this, I'll give him that. Knows how to play the wounded professional. Look, Dan, I respect what you've built here. We all do. But the company is bigger than any one person now. It has to be. And when you undercut leadership in front of the entire team, it sends a message that we're not unified. Leadership, I repeat. The word feels strange in my mouth. Right. We're all on the same team, Linda adds, her voice smooth and reasonable. But we need to be able to trust each other. Last night you made Evan look bad in front of clients, investors, everyone who matters to this company. I let the silence stretch for a beat. 2, 3. Then I stand up slowly and turn to face Evan directly. I apologize, I say, and my voice is steady, calm, almost gentle. I overstepped. It was inappropriate for me to make those comments during your presentation. You've worked hard to build relationships in this company, and I shouldn't have implied otherwise. Evan blinks. Linda's eyes narrow slightly. Greg looks relieved. I especially apologize, I continue, still looking directly at Evan, for not recognizing how important personal relationships are to your success here. Some people might see spending so much time together, late nights at the office, traveling together, as unprofessional. But I can see now that it's just dedication to the work. The temperature in the room drops about 10 degrees. Paula shifts in her seat. Marcus suddenly finds something fascinating about his notepad. Jenny's eyes widen slightly, then she controls her expression. What are you implying? Linda's voice is ice. Nothing at all, I say, turning to her with a small smile. I'm apologizing, just like you asked. I'm acknowledging that I've been out of touch with how the company operates now. Things have changed, relationships have changed, boundaries have changed. I'm just trying to catch up. Greg clears his throat. Well, I think we've addressed the situation. Dan, thank you for the apology. Let's all move forward professionally. Of course, I say. I make eye contact with each person in the room. Paula looks away first. Marcus gives me a tiny nod. Jenny's expression is carefully blank, but I catch something in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or sympathy. Evan stands up, extends his hand. It's a power move, forcing me to either shake or reveal my hostility. I take his hand, grip it firmly but not aggressively. His palm is slightly sweaty. No hard feelings, he says, and his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. None at all, I lie. The meeting breaks up. People file out, murmuring to each other in low voices that cut off when they think I might hear. I'm the last to leave, taking my time gathering my things. As I reach the door, I glance back. The conference room is empty now, just chairs and table and all that glass. Through the window, I can see the main floor of the office, cubicles and desks and people working, or pretending to work, or gossiping about what just happened. My phone buzzes, the unknown number from last night. Coffee shop on 3rd, 1 hour, come alone. I head to my office. Not the big corner one I used to have, with the view and the fancy desk. That belongs to Greg now. Mine is smaller, tucked away on the 2nd floor, officially designated as my writer's space, where I'm supposedly working on a company memoir. Nobody visits, nobody checks on me, it's perfect. The office is narrow, just enough room for a desk, a chair, and a small bookshelf, but it has one feature that makes it valuable. The window overlooks the main floor. From here, through the glass walls that make this building feel like an aquarium, I can see most of the common areas. The break room, the main corridor, the glass-walled offices of the senior staff. I watch for a few minutes. Linda and Evan have retreated to her office. Through the glass, I can see them talking, animated. She's pacing. He's sitting on the edge of her desk, closer than he needs to be. As I watch, she puts her hand on his shoulder. It lingers there for 3 seconds, 4, 5. Then she pulls away, glances toward the door, paranoid even in her supposed sanctuary. I take a photo with my phone. Not because I need proof for myself, but because evidence is always useful. 45 minutes later, I'm sitting in the coffee shop on 3rd Street, the kind of place that sells $12 lattes to people who want to feel cultured. I order black coffee and take a corner booth where I can see the entrance. She arrives exactly on time. Early 20s, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a company t-shirt under a jacket. I recognize her, Maya Price, from IT. One of the security and systems analysts, the kind of person most executives don't even notice because she's just part of the infrastructure. She slides into the booth across from me. No coffee, no pleasantries. Mr. Cole, she says. Dan, I correct. And you're Maya, IT security. Started about 8 months ago. She nods, looking slightly surprised that I know her name. I have access to badge logs, network activity, security camera feeds. It's part of my job to monitor for unusual patterns. And you found some. Your wife and Evan Hart have been logging late-night access to the building at least 3 times a week for the past 4 months, always within 15 minutes of each other, always using the executive floor badge access. Sometimes they're there until 2 or 3 in the morning. Working late, I say, neutral. Sure, except their computers show minimal activity during those hours. No major projects being saved, no emails going out, just badge swipes and the security cameras catching them going into his office or hers. Together. I take a sip of my coffee. It's terrible. Why are you telling me this? Because I was here when this company was good, when it meant something. My older brother worked for you in the early days, back when Cole Dynamics actually cared about employees, about doing good work. You fired him, actually. Caught him cutting corners on a client project. I remember, I say, and I do. The kid had been talented but lazy, turning in substandard code because he thought no one would check. I'd let him go the same day, despite his sister being on the team. Best decision I made on that project. He said the same thing later, said you were tough but fair, that you held everyone to the same standard, including yourself. She leans forward. This company isn't like that anymore, and the people who made it not like that are the same ones trying to push you out. How do you know about that? Because I saw the calendar blocks. Governance review. Board strategy session. Always scheduled when you're not in the building, always involving your wife, Evan, and Greg. They're planning something for the next board meeting. I sit back, processing. You could lose your job for telling me this. Yeah, probably. But I figure you've got a better chance of surviving what's coming than I do if they succeed. She slides a flash drive across the table. Badge logs, camera time stamps. Nothing illegal. Just the data I'm authorized to see as part of my role, but organized in a way that tells a story. I pocket the drive without looking at it. They're trying to restrict my system access. I got an email from IT yesterday about security protocols. That came from Evan, routed through my supervisor. They want to lock you out before the board meeting. When is it? 2 weeks, maybe less if they can move it up. The weekend passes in strange stillness. I stay away from the office, letting the dust settle, letting people process what happened. But I monitor everything. The internal chat channels that Maya gives me access to, the social media posts from employees, public posts only, I'm not that guy. The cascade of texts and calls that Greg fields and reluctantly forwards to me. Saturday afternoon, my mother calls. She's 73, sharp as ever, lives 2 states away in the same house where I grew up. Daniel, I got the strangest call yesterday from Linda's mother. I close my eyes. Of course. What did Margaret want? To tell me what a monster you've become, how you're destroying Linda's career out of spite, how you've always been controlling and now you're showing your true colors. And what did you tell her? Long pause. I told her that in 30 years of knowing Linda, I've never once heard her take responsibility for anything that went wrong, that every problem was always someone else's fault, and every success was always her doing. Another pause. Then I asked her if she knew Linda was having an affair. Mom. What? It's true, isn't it? You wouldn't be doing this otherwise. You're many things, Daniel, but you're not cruel without cause. I think about Linda at the gala, demanding I apologize. Linda in the boardroom, calling me paranoid and unstable. Linda in the parking garage, promising this isn't over. It's true, I admit. Then Margaret can deal with the fact that her daughter isn't the perfect angel she pretends to be. I've dealt with that woman's condescension for 15 years, all her subtle hints about how you weren't good enough for her precious Linda. She can handle some truth for once. After we hang up, I think about that. Linda's carefully constructed image. The perfection she projects to her family, her friends, the world. How much of her fury isn't about losing power at the company, but about losing the narrative, the story she tells about herself. Sunday evening, Helen calls. Board meeting tomorrow, virtual, but everyone's required to attend. We're discussing transition plans and long-term governance. Will Linda be there? She requested permission to present. The board agreed, in the interest of fairness. She's got 15 minutes to make her case. What case? She violated policy, refused to cooperate with investigation, sent inflammatory emails to staff. She's claiming the evidence was obtained improperly, that you stalked her, violated her privacy, engaged in a vendetta. Her lawyers arguing that any policy violations are outweighed by your misconduct. And what does the board think? We think she's grasping at straws, but we have to let her speak. Due process matters, even when the outcome is obvious. Monday morning. I dial into the virtual board meeting from my home office, camera on, professional background, looking calm and rested even though I barely slept. The board members join one by one. Helen, Marcus, Jennifer, Greg. Then Linda appears, and she's brought her A-game. Perfect makeup, professional blazer, neutral background that could be a law office or executive suite. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. Linda begins, her voice measured and reasonable. I want to be clear. I'm not denying that Evan and I spent time together outside of work. We're both dedicated professionals who often discuss strategy and client relationships in informal settings. But Dan has characterized a professional partnership as something inappropriate, and he's used intrusive surveillance to support his narrative. She pulls up a presentation. Exhibit A. Dan admitting to placing tracking devices on personal vehicles. That's stalking under state law. Exhibit B. Dan accessing badge logs and security footage without proper authorization. Exhibit C. Dan coordinating with an IT employee to monitor my activities, creating a hostile work environment. The board members are listening, faces neutral. Linda continues, building her case. Dan's behavior fits a pattern of controlling and paranoid conduct. When I succeeded in my role, when I brought in clients and built relationships, he saw it as a threat. Rather than support the company's growth, he's tried to tear down anyone who exceeded his own contributions. It's a good performance. She's positioned herself as the victim of an unstable founder, reframed all the evidence as illegal surveillance, made this about Dan's problems rather than her conduct. I'm requesting, Linda says, that the board reverse its decision to suspend me, conduct a proper investigation into Dan's actions, and consider whether he's fit to serve in any capacity given his demonstrated willingness to violate privacy and law. She finishes and mutes herself, expression confident. Helen unmutes. Linda, thank you for your presentation. Before the board discusses, I want to give Dan a chance to respond. Dan? I unmute, looking directly into the camera. Linda's presentation omits several key facts. First, the GPS trackers I used are consumer devices, legally available, placed on vehicles in public spaces. Courts have consistently held this is not stalking but permissible monitoring of assets in a marriage where infidelity is suspected. I pull up my own documents. Second, my access to badge logs and security footage was never revoked. As founder with security privileges, I had legitimate authorization. Third, the IT employee Linda references was simply doing her job, monitoring access patterns for security purposes. She didn't hack anything or violate any policies. But what about the hostile environment? Marcus asks. A hostile work environment is created when someone faces discrimination or harassment based on protected characteristics. Presenting factual evidence of policy violations to the board is neither discrimination nor harassment. It's governance. I switch slides. Linda claims I saw her success as a threat. Let's look at the actual record. Over the past 5 years, I've supported every major initiative Linda proposed. I voted for her compensation increases, her expanded authority, her strategic plans. The only time I challenged her was when her personal conduct created liability for the company. Jennifer speaks up. Linda, you mentioned Dan's paranoid conduct. Can you provide specific examples? Linda unmutes. He's been spreading rumors, monitoring my movements, turning employees against me. I've been documenting policy violations and presenting evidence to appropriate parties, I correct. That's not paranoia. That's due diligence. Greg finally speaks, his voice tentative. I think both sides have valid points. Maybe we need a mediator, someone who can help resolve this without destroying the company. Greg, Helen says, her voice sharp, this isn't a dispute between equals. This is a governance failure that the board has a legal obligation to address. Linda violated policy, Dan documented it. The question isn't whether both sides have valid points. The question is whether we uphold our own rules. Linda tries again. If the board moves forward with my termination, I will file a wrongful termination suit. I'll subpoena every email, every document, every conversation. I'll expose every questionable decision this company has made. And I'll make sure the press knows that Coal Dynamics protects stalkers and punishes success. It's a threat, clear and direct, and it's a mistake. I can see Helen's face harden, see Marcus's jaw tighten. You don't threaten the board, not if you want their sympathy. Linda, Helen says, this call is being recorded. You just threatened to damage the company if you don't get your way. That's exactly the kind of conduct that justifies our decision. I'm protecting my rights. You're threatening corporate sabotage. Helen looks at the other board members. I move that we proceed with termination for cause. All in favor? Hands go up on screens. Marcus, Jennifer, Helen. Greg hesitates, then raises his. Unanimous, Helen says. Linda Cole, you are terminated effective immediately for cause, specifically for violation of relationship disclosure policies, misuse of company resources, and threatening conduct toward the board. Your stock options are forfeited per the terms of your employment agreement. You have 10 business days to return all company property. Linda's face goes white, then red. You're making a mistake, all of you. When this company falls apart without me, don't say I didn't warn you. Goodbye, Linda, Helen says, and disconnects her from the call. The board sits in silence for a moment, then Jennifer speaks. Well, that was unpleasant. Necessary, though, Marcus adds. Helen, we need to discuss Evan Hart's status as well. Already terminated by Morrison Blake, I inform them. For misuse of company resources and sharing confidential information, they're considering legal action against him for fraud. Good, Helen says. That simplifies things. Now, let's talk about transition. Dan, you're the obvious choice for interim COO until we can conduct a proper search. No, I say immediately. I don't want the position permanently. I've learned my limits, but I'll help with the transition, identify internal candidates, provide stability. Greg clears his throat. What about my position? Helen looks at him coldly. Greg, you ignored warning signs, avoided difficult decisions, and generally failed to provide oversight. The board will be discussing your future separately. For now, you're on notice. Start acting like a CEE or start looking for a new job. After the board call ends, I sit alone in my office, feeling the weight of what just happened. Linda is gone, Evan is gone, the company is wounded but stable, and I'm still here. No longer the irrelevant founder, but not the CEO either. Somewhere in between, which is maybe where I belong. My phone rings. Unknown number, but I'm starting to recognize the pattern. Congratulations, the woman's voice says, the one from before, the mysterious informant. You won. Who are you? Paula Rodriguez. Well, Paula from HR. Rodriguez is my married name, but I use my maiden name professionally. I've been watching this situation for months, documenting everything, waiting for someone to do something. Why didn't you come forward earlier? Because HR reports to the CEO. Coming forward meant career suicide. But you changed that. You made it safe to tell the truth. She pauses. There's more, Dan. Linda wasn't just having an affair with Evan. She's been systematically positioning her allies, pushing out competent people who might threaten her power. I have documentation going back 3 years. Send it to me. And Paula, thank you. Don't thank me yet. Linda's not done. She still has friends in the company, people who owe her favors. Watch your back. The warning proves prescient faster than I expected. Tuesday morning, someone leaks Linda's termination letter to a tech news blog. By noon, the story is everywhere. Founder ousts successful COO in power struggle. The comments are predictably divided, some supporting me, others calling me a dinosaur who couldn't handle a strong woman. Wednesday, 3 senior employees resign, citing fundamental disagreements with company direction. They're Linda's people, the ones she promoted and protected. Their departure is coordinated, designed to create chaos. Thursday, our biggest client calls an emergency meeting to discuss the stability of our partnership. Helen and I take the call together, presenting a united front, showing documentation of the policy violations and the board's proper procedures. The client is satisfied, but it's a close thing. Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after the board meeting that started this, I'm in the office late when the fire alarm goes off. Everyone evacuates, filing out onto the street in the cold evening air. Fire trucks arrive, crews sweep the building. False alarm. But while we're all outside, someone accesses the executive floor and deletes files from Linda's old office computer. Security catches them on camera, a junior analyst who Linda hired and mentored. The kid is crying as security escorts him out, babbling about how Linda promised him she'd help his career if he did this one thing. It's sad, really. Linda burning her bridges by burning everything else first. Saturday, I get a package. No return address, but the handwriting is familiar. Inside is a USB drive and a note. You wanted war? Here's your prize. Enjoy the ashes. I don't plug the drive into any company computer. Instead, I take it to a friend who works in cybersecurity. He analyzes it in an isolated environment. It's malware, he tells me, designed to corrupt files and send copies to external servers. Sophisticated stuff. If you'd plugged this into your computer, it would have destroyed your evidence and given Linda access to everything. Can you trace where it came from? Not easily, but the coding style matches tools available on dark web forums. Someone paid good money for this. I thank him and head home, carrying the now disabled USB drive. Evidence of attempted corporate sabotage. One more nail in Linda's coffin if she decides to take legal action. Sunday night, I'm sitting in my living room when someone rings the doorbell. It's late, almost 10 p.m. I check the security camera. It's Linda. She's alone, no car visible in the driveway, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt instead of her usual polished attire. She looks exhausted. I open the door but don't invite her in. Linda, we need to talk. I don't think we do. Please, Dan, just 5 minutes. No lawyers, no recordings, just you and me. Against my better judgment, I let her into the foyer, not the living room, not comfortable, just the entry, where I can easily usher her back out. I want you to know, she says, that I never meant for it to end like this. Which part? The affair, the betrayal, or the attempted corporate sabotage? She winces. I didn't send you malware. Your handwriting was on the package. Someone forged it, or got something I'd written and copied it. Dan, I'm not that stupid. No, you're not. You're smart enough to use proxies to manipulate people into doing your dirty work. That analyst who tried to delete your files, he's facing criminal charges because you convinced him it was noble to destroy evidence. I never asked him to do that. You created a culture where people think that kind of loyalty is required. Same thing. She's quiet for a moment, and I see something crack in her composure. I loved you once. I did. But somewhere along the way, you became so focused on the company, on building and protecting and controlling, that there was no room for anything else. So you found room with Evan. I found partnership with Evan, someone who saw me as an equal, not as a helper or a protector or a problem to solve. Linda, I gave you everything, a career, a company, a life, and you threw it away because I wasn't paying enough attention? You gave me a role in your story. I wanted my own story. I look at her, this woman I was married to for 15 years, and I don't feel anger anymore, just exhaustion. You could have had your own story. You could have left, started your own company, built something yourself. Instead, you tried to steal mine. There's a difference. I helped build Coal Dynamics. You did, and I never denied that. But helping build something doesn't mean you get to destroy the builder. She turns toward the door, then stops. What happens now? Now you move on. Find another company, another partner, another story, and you leave mine alone. And if I don't? Then I release everything. Every document, every photo, every piece of evidence. I go public with exactly what happened, and you spend the rest of your career explaining why 3 board members and a senior partner at Morrison Blake all agreed you violated ethics policies. She opens the door, cold air rushing in. I really did love you, Dan. Once. I know. I loved you too. That's what makes this so much worse. She leaves, and I close the door, locking it carefully. Through the window, I watch her walk down the driveway, pull out her phone, call a car. She looks small, diminished, no longer the powerful COO, but just a woman who gambled and lost. I feel no satisfaction, just tiredness and the faint recognition that this chapter is finally actually closing.